Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're back at
Good
it.
morning.
Good morning.
So let's give it up for Miss Tisha Joyner and Miss Leah Smith.
Hey.
And so today we're going to talk about is we're going to get down and dirty in reference to the actual being realistic and understanding the boundaries and facts of your contract. And it seems like this year we have a lot of things going on with these clients and these customers to where they're really not paying attention to their contract, or in most cases, being realistic with the idea or the vision that they have about their event. So I'm going to start off with Tisha. What do you think of that? What's your insight on that?
I don't know if I actually have insight on that. What I can say is that when you go to purchase a home or a car or large purchases along that way, we have to do credit or anything that's outstanding, you literally read those contracts. Well, you're
You do.
paying for services for your event, your wedding, and most of them are on. You're making payments on it, so you should be looking at and reading and making sure you understand exactly what you're signing. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. With the venue, with your vendors, including your caterer, your decorator, whoever, you need to be reading these contracts so that you make sure you have a full understanding. And when a venue, we're gonna get into the venue part in a second with Leah, but when the place tells you, hey, the maximum you can put in here with a dance area and all your vendors is like 75 or 100, their buildings aren't going to stretch to fit the extra
No,
25 or 30 people you're trying to squeeze up in there. Please be
they're not.
about that. That's one of my biggest things. Stop trying to overpopulate a space.
That's a good
Sorry,
question.
everybody can't come. I'm just saying, everybody can't make it.
Everybody shouldn't come, but on that
You got
note,
a small space, you know what I'm saying? Pick a bigger a place. You can fit more people in there. But if you're picking a smaller venue, no insult to smaller venues at all, because some things need to be more intimate.
they are.
But if you're picking or choosing or renting a place that is only suited for 75 to 80 people, keep your count at that. Because I promise you, that venue owner or manager, they know what their venue can hold. They know they didn't just start the day before you came in the door. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then you run into this. If people are over inviting people to places that they can't hold that amount of people, then you risk having incidents occur because you don't have enough space for them. You can possibly get your event shut down
Mm-hmm.
because it's overpopulated.
Mm-hmm.
And then the venue owner itself has all the reasons to cancel your event. And then
Exactly.
you get mad at that, but you can't get mad because you went outside the contract and you did what you wasn't supposed to do. I don't understand why somebody would do that or people would do that, but if that's something that's occurring right now, it's not a good deal.
Here's the thing. When they're doing stuff like booking the space, it's like they just don't care about the ripple effect of their actions. You know what I'm saying?
And that's bad.
Very bad. Now, using the venue as a subject matter at the moment, people don't even understand that there's something called the fire marshal.
Yeah, it's a fire marshal. The
There is
business can get fined. The
mhm,
venue itself can get fined. It
because
can be
they're the
closed
ones that
because
set
they're
the
over
number.
capacity.
Because people don't understand when you get a venue or you have a venue, the fire marshal actually sets the number of people
Yes,
that
it
are allowed
does.
to be in your space.
Yes, they do.
Not the venue saying, "Oh, I only want to do this many people." It's the fire marshal.
Yes, it is.
That's called government rules.
Yep.
You know, there are rules and
And they
everything.
must be followed.
And if they happen to walk up on or roll up on that event, and you're supposed to only have 102 people in that building, and they count 130, that venue owner, that venue manager, they are going to be in trouble. Those are fines and fees and penalties.
that you don't want to
No.
have, because it goes against you, and it's just not, it's not good. It's not good.
Mm-mm.
It's not good. It's not good for business, but all the way around the circle, it's just not good.
So if I booked your venue, I'm just giving a one very specific thing. Let's say I booked a venue with you. I booked the space with you, and the space could only hold 85 people. And the fire marshal came through and said it was 108 people in here, and they fined. Do I get it as a customer? Am I about to pay that fine?
I would probably make you pay that fine.
Mm-hmm. And those fines can start off as low as
$500 or more.
Mhm.
They start at $500. You get fined from the city, it's going to be every bit of $500 every time they come up in there. I don't care if it's the awning messed up on the building. If you didn't change it and it's not according to code, it's $500 fine out the gate.
I need people to hear that.
Let me ask you this, but isn't that
Out the
bad
gate.
for the venue?
It's very bad for the venue because it's like getting a press release from the city. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it could possibly get you in the newspaper too. I mean, it's just, it could go so many forms of wrong that it doesn't make a good. See, most venues and things like that, even us as planners and as venue people who have venues, it's a word of mouth situation. So if you're a good space and you do well and you're good and people know who you are, if something goes wrong in a bad way and you get too many what you call red flags up, that word of mouth gets spread out there. Oh, they done got fined like 3 times already because they had overcapacitated, and and here's the thing, I can't even just blame it on the person who's having the event. The venue person knows as well. They know exactly who and how many people they can and cannot hold. And sometimes they do press it and say, well, okay, we're gonna push it and do this, and we're gonna push it and do that. But you know that you can't. That's it. And the thing about it is different ways to hold stuff that can accommodate more if it's done correctly. Let's just say it's something that's like a walkthrough event. You understand what I'm saying? It's something that's going on all day, but it's not a certain amount of people in there at one particular time.
Got you.
It's like a walkthrough thing. Like let's just say you're having different segments of something, and something is starting at 9, and then at 12 o'clock we have another segment, and then at 2 o'clock we have another segment. So you got a rotating bunch of people coming through. That's understandable. You can do that if it's a rotating flex, you know what I'm saying, of people and stuff like that. But I would not suggest that you go over the capacity of what you actually can have at a place of business, unless it's something pertaining to that type of rotation.
Yeah, and my main reason for bringing that up is because I need potential customers to understand the liability.
Yeah, it's a big liability.
Putting a venue, you're putting them in a huge liability right then, space, because as much as people like to think the owner controls everything or the manager controls everything, the city that is located in controls everything.
Yeah, because they tell you once they do their walkthrough and everything, they'll tell you exactly how many people the building can actually hold. They tell you how many people the building can actually hold seated. They tell you how many the building can actually hold in a classroom setting. And they tell you how many the building can hold in a standing setting, standing room only. So that's what I mean by actually can be a little bit more than what you expected. But it has to be a specific reason for the event.
Excuse me.
If it's standing room only, there's no chairs and tables.
Yeah.
You can have more people.
In space.
Right. You can have more people because it's a rotating thing. It's standing. It's a standing room thing. Classroom seating is the same way. But banquet seating for an event is specific.
Very specific.
You can't go over the amount because the amount is set for the amount of people that's coming with the tables and the chairs,
That's one too.
and it's allowed for that many people. So you got to take a lot of stuff into consideration if you don't know what type of events you having. That's all. That's why it's very important to know what exactly you're having, so that the person who is allowing you to come in their space can actually set the tone in the area for that specific for the specific event that you're having.
Okay, so let's stay focused on events where we're going to have the tables and chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
just got a question too to add to that,
go ahead.
because then who is the one, like, to me, because I know what happens after you break the fire code so many times, they're going to shut your facility down regardless.
Yeah.
So
Well,
who should, like, at what point should the owner of the venue or the manager of the venue just say, okay, look, you can't do this, or this is not going to work? At what point should they say that? Should they say that like at the contract? Because like what people do, like, you know, when you first initiate, you're planning on how many people. So like someone, let's say for example, if you like a customer comes in, I want to do 200 guests. Okay, your max is 200 guests. What would you tell that customer to prevent them from going over their limitation?
cut that guest list down for one, but that's me.
well,
No,
that's
but I mean,
that's
like
obvious.
if someone comes in and says the max during the planning, and we all know as planners, when you plan for the max, that's a bad thing. So like that's something that should be initiated. And I always stress to people, you never want to plan. I would say if the max is 200, then don't go past 175.
Exactly.
So you always plan for 3/4 of what you're like, what your space is availability. But again, every venue is different because some venues, let's say, don't have a designated dance floor area. So there's so many different factors based on the venue. But how can we prevent somebody from making that mistake of overbooking a venue?
Well, I always suggest something similar to what you suggest. That when a bride comes to me and she says, "Well, I have 150 guests coming," that's how many RSVPs she sends out. Not just saying that she's going to get. So I always tell them, just like something like you just said. Well, if you planned on for 150, you can guarantee that maybe 120 will come, or maybe 100, because you're going to lose like a good little portion of it because everybody ain't going to show up.
25% to 30% of your guests
Right.
that you think are going to come are not coming.
Now, granted, sometimes
They go over.
you do show up,
Mm-hmm.
but then you run into the problem that is more than what you actually anticipated. So now,
Leah, wait. Let me ask
making
you
sure
right
that
here.
go ahead.
Ask you this right here. Do you explain to them when they're sending these RSVP, these invitations out with this RSVP, they need to count 2 people per invitation minimum?
I try to, because everybody has a significant other, and what they fail to realize is that sometimes people invite you and not and don't have a plus one, but you should do that person at a plus one, because especially if you know this person is married. This person has been dating this person forever. You know what I'm saying? They have a significant other, and they're not going to come to an event by themselves. Unless you know for sure, out of a shadow of a doubt, that this person is just coming by themselves, then yeah. But
plan for a plus 2.
Right. Always plan for a plus one.
But what if it's a +4?
Well, I mean,
the whole family.
They have it too.
They have a family. They
Right.
have a family. So you have to take in consideration. That's why I always tell people, be careful with your guest list. Invite the people that's the most closest to you, the people that you see constantly on a significant basis. Don't just invite people that you ain't see in 10 years. I ain't seen in 12 years. I mean,
Your
really,
former roommate from college.
Right. If you haven't seen them since then and haven't conversated with them since then, I mean, what I don't get it.
Why are you inviting everybody?
Be mindful of who you have celebrating that big day, whatever it is with you. You know what I'm saying? Just be mindful, because what most people don't understand is that your guest list is your money pocket.
Okay. Say that again.
Okay. The amount of guests that you have for an event is where your money is going to go. So if you don't plan wisely, you may think that you only going to spend this amount. But if you just got to have 300 people, I just have to have 275 people or whatever, then know that it's going to cost a lot
And I think that's
because
where,
it's your guest count that
right.
makes everything rise on
Mhm.
top of the expense of having it where you want to have it at.
And
And
right now, the
you have to
average,
take all of that into consideration. You
right.
got your catering, you got everything. All of that is surrounded by your guest count.
And the
Yep.
average guest count right now is you're looking at 150 to 175
That's the
per guest.
average.
Right, that's the
That's
average.
the average.
Because they can
And
go up or it can go down.
the minimum now is like 80.
Right.
50 to 80, because those are people that just want to have nice intimate events. And
No, I'm talking about the
yeah,
cost. I'm talking about per guest is
yeah,
$150
yeah,
$150
175.
to 175
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
per
Mm-hmm.
guest.
Mario, we need to expand on that some, so people understand what that 150 to 185 is really inclusive. Because I don't think they think about all the parts.
They don't. When
It's
people have an event, they do the guest counts. They do the guest list first.
Right.
true, which is actually smart, but
Yeah,
they're including too many people that don't really need to be on there.
but professionally, if I want to plan an event, the first thing I'm gonna do is go and see where I want to have this thing at.
Yeah.
That's what the first thing I would do. My guest list is gonna be my pretty much. I already have that in my head approximately how many people I want to go. But I need to secure where I want to have it at. So once I go and see where I want to have it at or get an idea, then I'm gonna ask that specific space, how many people can you hold here?
Gotcha.
And if they say, well, we can hold 175 guests, but we really like to max it down to like 150. Then that gives me an idea personally of how many people I really feel like I want to invite to this event. So once I secure my space, then I work on my guest list. I know I'm going to have a party. I know I'm going to have something out the gate. How many people is coming depends on where I go.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think to a degree, some people need to do their guest list first before they go look for a venue.
They
Because
can, but you gotta think about this too. The only
that,
reason why I say it that way is because sometimes your guest list is over what you actually can afford for a venue.
right.
You
And
see
I
what
think
I'm saying? That's why I'm saying for me, it's more important to go figure out where I want to have an idea, even if it's 1, 2, or 3 places that I go look at. At least I have an option to figure out. Well, this place can hold more, so I could at least invite more people.
right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if I have a guest list and I send out, oh, guess what? We having a party and I'm sending out 300 RSVPs and damn near all of them is coming. Now I got to go find a place.
No. What I'm saying is what they should do is before they do anything is they need to sit down and get an idea of what their guest count is going to be prior to them going to look at the venue. Because like,
But most people know what their guest count is going to be because these are people that they constantly seeing all the time and they know who they want to invite.
right.
So out the gate, you're going to invite like 100 people.
Wait. We're being too realistic like right now. Because we all know that clients will say, "Oh, well, I had a wedding that went from 85 people to 230 something people."
Right.
Like,
That's what.
I didn't experience
And that's
that.
what
So
this year. That's what's going on this year. Is I've had 12 cancellations, and out of those 12 which I've never had that many before. But the reason why people were canceling is as they're going through the process, they're finding out that it's going to cost them too much money.
More money. This is what I'm saying. The more people, the more money.
Right. And they're not sitting down and planning this thing out right. So, like, let's say, for example, if I'm saying, okay, your average cost for your guest is $150, right? That right there should automatically in your mind deteriorate on how many people you want to invite.
Yeah.
If it's going to cost your guest, it's going to cost you $150 per guest. That right there should say, okay, I need to tighten up my shot group because $150 per guest, I only want certain people to come anyways.
Right, because it ends up getting overwhelming.
Right. But that's what this year has been all about, going over, like they plan for 100 and then before they get to it, like they got 200 people. And so then the venue can accommodate that. So then they have to go find another venue. That has happened
That's
six
a big,
times.
yeah,
That's
that's a
happened six
really
times
big
this year for
problem.
me.
That's a big problem because if they already secured one place, most people don't even give a deposit back.
Right.
So you secured one place and your head count done went more than what that place can actually afford to carry. That's a huge problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a
That
big
means
thing.
that's money lost because you won't get your deposit back.
Right.
No,
That's a whole date loss for the venue because they can't even accommodate you.
Right.
there's
And
no
that,
there's no guarantee they can actually book that day out.
Nope. And then you're gonna have to try to find something else at the last minute because your guest count went up. Yeah, see, that's why it's very important. You have to know your numbers.
right. And
You gotta know your numbers.
and once you get deep into your contract, you have to understand your boundaries and the facts of what your contract is saying, because that's one of the biggest issues is that people don't take time out to be realistic with the planning portion of it. And they say, oh yeah, they live in this fantasy. We're going to invite 200 people and, we're going to do this and so forth. But then sometimes in the contract, and this is one of the things that people need to pay attention to, in the contract, there are restrictions. The higher your numbers, there's more restrictions that are in place. Like, for example, if you have alcohol at your venue, you got to have so many security guards for so many people. I mean,
so many security guards and so many bartenders.
Right.
Yes, Lord.
So there's a lot of things as your number goes up. There's so many additional restrictions that are going to be put on you, and a lot of people don't know that because they don't want to read their contracts.
Yep. You have to have so many bartenders for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's over 100. It's 2 or 3.
Right. If you're going to have alcohol,
depending on what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, it's imperative that you read it.
Effect. It's a ripple, like throwing a rock in a little pond, and it's a ripple effect. Everything, your guest count affects everything.
It does. It affects everything. It affects your alcohol, and it definitely affects your catering.
And definitely your number of tables you got to have,
tables, decorations, and florals if you have florals and stuff.
And then all of that is affected by the actual venue and what it allows in there.
Yeah,
right. It seems like for DJs, and then when it comes down to DJs, is once you go past 200, that affects the DJ because now the DJ has to bring their proper appropriate sound system to accommodate 200 plus people. Most DJs sound system can accommodate 200 people. Most DJ systems, that's the average. But then once you get past 200, then that's when additional equipment has to be bringing in to cover that.
Additional speakers,
right.
A whole bunch more stuff, more lighting and things like that. I understand that part. Definitely.
So that's one of the things. And then I think that's one of the things that you can't ask for a lot of stuff. Let's say, for example, if you maximize, another thing about maximizing a building is you maximize the building and people are sitting on top of each other. Guess what? You just now cause an effect to where you can't have, let's say, uplighting because there's not enough space for the uplighting to be put down. That's happened. That's happened to me already once this year, where I had to limit my uplighting because they had a table and chair in almost every single area.
Yeah, so you didn't have enough wall space or anything to create the atmosphere the way you wanted to do it.
And I think that's what people need to understand is that they need to take time out to get to understanding of the restrictions of the venue, because the venue is what's going to have a major effect. The venue is the number one thing that they need to understand. And one of the things I'm starting to see is that in some cases the venue is not being realistic with the customer. If a customer comes up to you and say, Leah, let's say, for example, I'm a customer, I'm coming up to you, and I tell you I want to have 300 guests in your venue. What's the first thing you're going to tell them?
If they can have 300 guests here?
They want to have 300 guests in your venue.
See, this is what goes back to what I was saying. It all depends on what they're having. If you're having a seated event in here and it's consists of tables and chairs, no, you can't have 300 people.
Well, right. And
we're not going to hold it. We're not going to be able to hold it. 200 is the max we could do 250, but I hardly ever let anyone really too much do the 250 because it begins to be so overwhelming that you won't
And
have no
crowded.
space, right? No space to do anything else with. So I try my best to make sure that they at least do at least 200 if they
And
feel like they got to go that
once
way.
that 300 number is thrown out there, and you say no, then what, Mario?
So then that's one. I mean, that's why I say the then okay, like okay, you can't do 300. So then
Not
now,
seated, no. But if it's something that's rotating, like I said, and it's going through and it's throughout the day or something like that's going on, and it's a some type of event on that matter, and it's standing room and stuff, yeah, we can go through it. We can go through it. We
well,
can
we're
do it
talking
like
more
that.
so like when
Do
we
it.
say we're talking
We
more of
can't have you in here. We can't have you in here seated. We can't
right,
do it.
because in
We
most
cannot.
cases we say it's like a wedding because like here it is, and it's June. I would say that it's June, of course, coming up. Tomorrow's June, and we're at the halftime mark of the year, and people are now waiting to the last minute to do summer weddings. And what they're doing is they're jumping into hey, good morning, Promise. They're jumping into this scenario. I mean, I tell you, I just within yesterday and today I've already had requests for June, July weddings. To DJ for June, July weddings, and they're not being realistic with the timing of how they're booking me, because how are you going to try to schedule me 2 to 4 weeks prior to your wedding day? That makes no sense. And then you're not taking consideration on your spacing because, like, I know one, I actually had to turn it down because they weren't being realistic. They weren't being realistic with the spacing. And I think people need to understand that you can't just throw stuff together and hope it sticks to the wall. Like, and
Mm,
that's what some people are doing right now. They're just throwing stuff against the wall and hope it sticks.
Well, I know that as far as planners go, we are known to work a miracle. But in saying in mindset of what you're saying, I do understand the part about getting stuff done at the last minute. It's it will take a miracle to get everything completely done, and it's hard and it's stressful. And no, you
Right,
can't really just throw something together like with a drop of a hat without having everything in order. This is an order process. This is an ordering
right,
process. It's best for you to plan something accordingly so that you can have enough time to get everything done. You dot every I, you cross every T, and everything is in an appropriate order. Doing things in a rush and in a hurry is never good. It's never good. Granted, to say I have had some people call me at the last minute and say that they're having something and they're just doing something not too big, or they were able to get a location locked in at the last minute, and it was a blessing,
right, right, right,
and it went off well. But that's not everybody's case. You
mm-mm.
right,
understand what I'm saying? That's not realistic. It's not everybody's case, because sometimes it can be so havoc that it's not worth it. Sometimes you really do have to just say no.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because like my thing is
You have
like
to
say
say
your
no
numbers
sometimes.
and what people need to understand is your numbers have an impact on how well things can flow.
Right.
If you're doing a last minute wedding and you only have 50 people, okay, that's doable. Um, you're giving yourself a lot more limit. You're giving yourself a lot more capability, or I should say availability to do different things. If you're because then as 50 people, like okay, for example, in Fayetteville alone, there are so many venues that can hold 50 people. Once you get to
Yeah.
that 200 plus, now you're limited on venues.
Very limited. That's a
And
short
just
list.
like and then like the inventories, and I think this is another thing is like okay, even though your venue can hold 200 people, but you only have 150 chairs, well, how many is it? I mean, that's something else that we need to like we need to stop doing this. And I'm gonna say this to some of these venues out here that's doing this. If you ain't got the capability to hold that many people, then you shouldn't give that number out.
No, you should not. That's insane.
And I think that's what, and I know that's happened. I've seen one venue like back in 2015. I'm not going to call out the ambiance name, but back in
You ain't right.
2015, they, they couldn't. They pretty much what they did was they told a large church that they can hold 400 people or 300 people, but didn't have enough chairs to cover down that many people. So what wound up happening is they had to turn around, and the venue, the customer was responsible for going out to get their own chairs. You don't do that. Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems that we gotta get out of this bad practice. Like, these venues are our frontline defense for us as vendors. If you're not doing the right thing for these customers, and again, don't get me wrong, there's some hard-headed customers out there too, but the venue is the first line defense. And if you can't shut something down that you know is not going to work, you don't do it the day of. And I think that's what makes a bad venue is you can't tell a customer, "Oh, I can't do this the day of their event." You can't do that.
Well, you couldn't do it. You knew you couldn't do it from the beginning.
Right. That's bad business. And I think
you couldn't do it from the beginning, so it should have never been allowed.
Right. And so that's why the two venues I don't do business with, that's what we'll do is they'll promise the customer they can do this, and this. And then the day of their event, they tell the customer they can't do it. And so those two venues that did that, I no longer do business with them, because you can't promise the customer just to get them to sign a contract and then you turn around and renege on it. And that's why I tell people all the time, if someone promised you something, make sure it's in black and white.
In writing. Amen.
Make sure it's in writing, because
unless I specifically put my notes in on something, I won't ever say I said anything. I'm not promise you anything unless I put it in myself and say I'm going to deduct this, or I'm going to allow you to do this, or I'm giving you a discount on this. If it's not written down, I'm not going to ever do that.
Yeah.
But to say someone, but to allow someone to rent your space knowing that you can't hold that many people, that is so absolutely 100% completely out of order. So wrong on their part. And they should never have done that.
I think you cannot fulfill is not right.
That's not cool.
Because you're setting everybody up for failure. It's like you come in.
Very much so.
You're telling the customer, "Oh yeah, we can hold 300 people," but you know you ain't got enough chairs and tables for 300 people. So then you want to tell them at the day of their event.
The day of.
In that case, you will definitely be giving me all my money back.
Yeah. Right. And she Dr. Cece
is the problem here's the problem. You know, a lot of these people that have these big events and stuff, and especially if it's like a church or something like that, they've sold tickets. They, you know what I'm saying, they have things that they have done to get all the people that's coming to this event. And when you set that up and then all of a sudden you can't have the event because the capacity is over capacity, over the capacity, that is so not good.
Right. And to answer Dr. Cece's question, a verbal agreement in most cases, if you can't prove it was said,
they're very hard to prove.
It's very hard to prove. That's why it's very critical. I mean, I learned, and the thing is, I'm gonna say this, I learned that because of one of the venues I used to deal with back in the days. I found out that they were promised so many different things, and then the day of, they didn't deliver, and the customer pretty much couldn't do anything about it because the contract is what covered the venue. The venue said this, and this, but the customer didn't take time to read and understand that contract is what but that's the limitations of that venue. And I think that's where people need to stop. They need to take a moment to read the contract. A lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of extra stuff that goes on the contract. For example, if you if you go through and you allow somebody to say, okay, for example, okay, we're gonna bring in, I'm gonna make up some crazy stuff. Okay, we're gonna bring in a lion and tiger for our event. Okay, I'm just throwing some crazy stuff out there. We're gonna bring in a lion and tiger for our event. At what point is the insurance gonna cover if anything bad happens during that event?
They ain't bringing no lion and tiger.
Read my note.
Let me tell you something. We had an event one time before.
Don't say it out loud. Just read my note.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We had 4 white. Lord have mercy, Jesus. We had an event one time before. I ain't gonna say what it was, but the person wanted a horse. Mind you,
Inside the venue.
to have them come in on. It could have actually happened because the particular venue is big enough to have allowed something of that extravagance to walk through, drop that person off, and leave back out. But I was devastated behind this particular thing. Okay. So I was like, absolutely not. Will not be a part of that. I don't care how elaborate it will look or be. I'm not comfortable with having some type of animal that belongs on the outside to carry you in. I don't care if you use Queen of Sheba. Okay. This is not going to happen. But they wanted it so bad that they paid the amount of money that the manager at that particular time required if they wanted to actually do this. And they did it.
What was the downside? I can pretty much guess, but go ahead.
Yeah, I pretty much messed that one up too, because I mean, I've dealt with horses.
Was what my business?
It's just not a pretty sight.
Was what my biggest fear is, because animals get scared when they are around a lot of people.
Yeah, and there's 2 things they can do. Well, 3 or 4 things actually they can do, but
So yes, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was done for. I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't care how much money that they paid, but they paid for it. They had their little event. They was happy. I was disgusted, but it happened. And I'm glad that it happened. And it was only like a 5-minute thing. It only took like 5 minutes to get in and get off and everything. But I felt like I was at the circus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, some people got some really far-fetched things that they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But for here, don't ask me because it ain't going to happen. Don't think about it because it ain't going to happen. Don't dream about it because it ain't going to happen. Don't even send me a message through mind. It's not going to happen.
But I think that's where, what's so sad is that vendors and I'm going to say this, venues and vendors have to actually change up their contract almost on a yearly basis, because you're going to encounter some stuff that you never heard of before.
I promise you.
It's like you're going to have to charge. I mean, and it's like, to me, I've noticed I've had to make some changes based off of some of the stuff that these customers are trying to do. It's like, really?
I've changed the contract 4 times. Yeah. And I'm about to change it again. Because what happens is that not only not only some of the foolishness that the customers come with, it's so many different things that happens that is like, okay, so you know what? This happened, so now I'm gonna have to do this here, because people are hard-headed and they don't listen, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. They try to go around you when you're not around and do something different, and then before it's too late, it's already done. But the thing about it is, once it's already done, the circumstances that happens behind it for the reason why we said no in the first place now ends up costing you more money, because you shouldn't have done it in the first place, because that was one of the rules.
This is what gets me, though.
You went and did it anyway.
But this is what gets me. They act like, okay, people come to us mostly because of the years of experience that we have in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of word of mouth that tells them how good we are, what we do. But why do you always get those customers, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 a year, that want to try you as if you just started a month ago or a year ago? Why do they insist on, listen, people, because I'm known as the blunt one here. Listen, stop it. Okay. We've seen a lot. Now, we ain't seen everything, but we've seen a lot of that mess that y'all trying to create. We're not down for that, because see, what you fail to understand is we still have to work the next day. We still got to run those venues the next day. We still got to run our business the next day. We still got to DJ the next day. We still got to, this is our livelihood that y'all mess with. And if you want to put somebody real ugly with you, mess with their livelihood. That's all I'm going to say. Mess with their livelihood. And you're going to see a whole nother side of folk. So what you need to not do is try to handle us as if we don't know what you're doing. Because trust me, just like you trying to run that game, we've had 12 or more before you done try to run that game. Probably the last month. I'm just saying.
But that's why I say that in the process, that's where we have to hold our boundaries with our contract because I mean, like right now, I know I've had to make some changes to my contract based off of, I mean, just basic social media practices. I had someone decided that they wanted to have an issue with me posting one picture of my setup.
I remember that.
And I had to break it down to them, explain to them, as long as that there's no people in the picture, it should not be an issue. And that's what most of the time, most of my pictures now.
You mean your setup that you do when you always just put everything up and it's just you? It's just your stuff?
It's just my setup.
Why would they not? I don't get it.
Well, see, I think that's one of the things is that you have to break it down and explain to customers. I mean, because I actually had to put a social media clause in my contract based off of that episode. And I had to let people know, it's like, look, I'm not trying to publicize your actual event with your people and stuff, because I know you got some people that might come to your event, they have a privacy thing that they don't want to be on social media, and I get that. But at the same time, in reality, I mean, if I wanted to post the pictures, I could, but I'm going to be respectful, and that's why I always have that clause in my contract to where if they choose to, I mean, I don't have no problems not posting pictures with people in it, but me taking a picture of my setup, I mean, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, because that's you. That's you all day.
Right. So that's just something that people, I mean, they're not being realistic when it comes to these certain demands. And that's why I said that if you can't.
It's always good. It's always good. Like, especially for us as planners and stuff, when we take photos of our work all the time.
Right.
And we're going to take a before picture of what the venue looked like naked with nothing in it. We're going to take a second before pictures with all the tables and chairs, and then we're going to take a picture of how we did it.
Right, and it's more so,
and those are our things and our pictures that we can take because everything is our stuff.
It's our work.
It's our work, so it helps us, just how we generate business and things like that. But it also always helps too, as a venue owner or as a planner, as a DJ, to do exactly what you're doing right now, Mario, and that has that clause in there.
Yeah.
So I even have a sheet. I don't even know if it's here right now, but I do have a sheet where it's a photo release form. Just in case, you know what I'm saying, I feel like I need this photo release form. If the person may be a private person or something like that, are we able to use your photos of your event for our purposes, for our
marketing,
for our marketing? Because we did the event for you. We maybe did I'm known for my backdrops. So my main thing is going to be that hold on one second, you guys. My main thing is going to be that I have to have a photo of the bride and groom in front of my backdrop with my chairs or my love table or anything like that. That's my whole setup for myself. You know what I'm saying? Especially for my marketing purposes. So people see, oh my goodness, that was a beautiful backdrop you did. I love the colors and everything. It was just, really cool. So that's what I do. So having that piece of paper for them to sign off on is important. It's important. And have that little clause there. It's important because some of those pictures for us are must-haves.
Yeah.
They're must-have. Just like we have a photographer, there's a must-have list on the photographer.
Yeah.
You got to have the photo of the bride walking down the aisle. You got to have the photo of them saying, I do. You got to have the photo of them coming in. You got to have the first dance. Those are like must-haves. And we have our must-haves too. So yeah, I agree with having a little clause inside something that says that we, the photos that we take and you initialing it to making sure that it's okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't post everything. And now if I can't post it, then I'll make sure to take a picture without you guys sitting there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I'm
that,
saying? Because plenty
right.
of times you'll see my stuff up there and don't have nobody sitting there, but this is my work, so I'm gonna post that. So yeah, Mario, as far as you going for your own stuff, I don't even see absolutely why that was the issue.
And see me, and that's another reason why I put that clause in there is also for legal purposes too, because like one of the things is that when you have a client and something goes wrong, let's say for example, and I'm just going to throw this as an example, caterer doesn't show up for the event, and it ruins the event, right? But they still move forward with the event and have a good time. I've heard these crazy episodes where the customer, because of one vendor, ruined it for them. They're trying to get all their money back from all the vendors. So in one situation, they actually rebutted and said that they never got the services, and PayPal. This is back when PayPal will automatically give the money
Refund
back.
the money.
They automatically refund the money back, and then you have to go back as a vendor and prove yourself. So
Yeah.
one of the things I've learned is you still, as a vendor, as a venue, you need to take pictures of your work also for legal purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
because to prove that you actually did the setup,
right,
you actually was there, the catering setup was there, is
right,
your people that's working. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's most definitely 100% true.
and I
Because
think
you
that's
can't
where
never, you ain't gonna never say that I wasn't there doing nothing.
because nowadays people is like that's what people are doing, and it's like you have to protect yourselves. I mean, even though that's like maybe a 0.1% that's bad out there doing stuff like that, you still got to protect yourself with your contract.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't understand that you know if the contract goes both ways, it's a double-edged sword. It can hurt you or it can help you, and you have to establish your boundaries with your contract. For example, like how many DJs y'all know put down how much space is required for their setup in their contract? That is a major
That's
issue.
it is a major issue because you know what? I don't see that.
I mean, I do it in mine,
I,
but
I I know you do, but I don't see that quite often. They may ask where's the setup at for the DJ. But that's a very very valid point because as a DJ, I think that you should ask for a specific amount of space
you
because
should.
see you're the one that knows what you're bringing. That's just like when we cater or something or whatever. My biggest pet peeve is that I want to know: are we putting the food inside the reception area, or we have a space where we can set up outside? And is there a catering kitchen
Right,
Mm-hmm.
or prep kitchen? So if we don't have those things, I have to refigure out the amount of space that I need in my head in order for me to do a setup and still be able to prep stuff at the same time. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that kind of space for me, then we need to move the location to something else. Maybe like, can we set up in the hallway? You know what I'm saying? Just so we can have an extra space to do something. But that's a very valid point, though. As far as the DJs go, they really should put in there the amount of space that they're needing to provide the service that they're providing. Because you got television sometimes, you
right.
got more than two speakers. It's a whole bunch of stuff y'all come with. And each
Hey,
and each
Cheryl.
DJ is different.
Right. Hey, Miss Baker. Hey, Miss Cheryl Baker. Hey, how you doing?
Girl.
Hey,
But,
sister.
but I think, and the thing is, I think that every vendor should do that regardless, because like what happens most of the time is a vendor will like what would happen, and see most of your vendors, most of your professional vendors are going to do a site visit, so they know what they're getting themselves into. But then you'll have those vendors that don't do site visits. They show up, and then the resources that they're bringing takes up more space than what is expected. And I
And
always
more
say,
time, and more setup time, and more breakdown time.
right,
Because some
and that,
people just overkill sometimes when it's just, I mean, because you didn't do the site visit. And
right,
I think that's the number one rule that you should do a site visit. All vendors
right. All
should do
vendors
a
should
site
do,
visit.
regardless on if
Should
you
do a
got to
site
set up
visit.
anything, you should do a site visit.
You should do a site visit. I
And
mean, at least if you're a florist, you should do a site visit so you can at least see the layout of the room and how many florals you need to bring and how the tables are going to be set up. You should know these things if you're going to step foot inside a space and put something in it.
that's also me. And one of the things I know this is not a standard, but my thing is I think it should be a standard across the board that every venue requires the customer to give them a floor plan 30 days prior. And it
Mm.
has to be
Yeah,
approved
you
and
should.
signed
You
off on.
should.
I mean, that's
You should
something
have
that
something. You should have something.
because most of the venues that don't do floor plans, um, and some venues are set up to where you don't need a floor plan, because they have a designated dance floor. Everything is designated. Those, okay, that floor plan is always going to be the same. But when you're dealing with a venue that has like so many options, like if you're dealing with an open space that there's nothing designated, then a floor plan needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the biggest issues that I run into a lot, is that when venues do not hold customers accountable for how they're going to allocate the spacing, that's when you get the cluster of vendors trying to figure it out on the day of the event, which is the wrong time to try to figure
Yeah,
it out.
that's not good. See, that's too much aggravation. I can't deal with all of that.
Right.
I mean, unless it's something that's a major change, you know what I'm saying, or something, or we set up a room for a certain amount of people and then it's not that certain amount of people is less than something like that, then okay, I can see us, let's take two tables out and the rest of these chairs so we can, you know what I'm saying, just set the room up for this amount of people because we're 50 people less.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's something that, you know, you have to do. But to get aggravated behind it, no. Mm-mm. No, not to do what you just said. No.
Yeah, and that's what happens most of the time. What happens, and then what people don't understand is when they don't do that, and then they decide the last minute, well, oh, okay, we're gonna put the DJ over in the timeout corner. Okay, well, you just lost all your resources that I'm providing to you by putting me in the timeout corner. That's another thing that needs to be, like, again, going back and looking at the contract of every single one of your vendors and understanding the resources that they're bringing, how the resources are going to be applied to their event, and how much spacing needs to be allocated for those resources to work correctly. I don't expect customers to be video DJs, but I do expect them to read their contracts. And I think that's one of those things across the board, is that people are not reading their contracts, and then venues are not holding people accountable for how the space is going to be allocated. And I think that is what's hurting us across the board, is you can't come into a venue and technically, okay, my venue only can hold 20 tables, but on your floor plan you have 25. Where are you going to get the other 5 tables from?
No, that's not appropriate.
Right.
That's not appropriate. I
And
mean,
if you submit a floor plan to someone, to a venue, and they approve it, and then they a month in advance, and then they call you the morning of and say, "Oh, by the way, we got to drop 3-4 tables."
no, that's bad business. That's really not. If they're doing that, that's so unprofessional. I mean, why would you allow someone to think that they can have as many people as over the amount of people that you're legally able to accommodate?
Right.
No, that's
You
not.
have so many
That's
people
very
that are,
unprofessional.
And
yeah,
see, me, I stepped back and I seen one event, and I'll never forget this. I saw one event where the DJ had no choice but to spread his speakers out. And when he spread his speakers out, one of his speakers was damaged because someone had spilled a drink on it. Um,
Mm.
that is one of the issues that I have, when it comes to allocating space, is that, okay, if I have to put somewhere in a place that's going to cause more risk for it to get damaged, then as a vendor, I'm going to say, no, that's not going to work. That's why most of the time when my contract is very clear, 8 by 5 feet worth of spacing, that covers where I can put all my equipment within sight to make sure nobody doesn't put anything appropriate on it. I
mm-hmm.
remember one time, I mean, I just did this like 2 weeks ago. Had someone put something on my speaker and it was right there by me, so I immediately was able to address that issue to where, hey, you got to take that off my speaker. Oh, my bad. Yeah, what do you bet?
Can we waver to the side just a little bit and talk about the amount of disrespect that exists in this industry from guests? Can we talk about that for a second?
Oh yeah, we can. Oh yeah, we
Well,
talk about that.
I'm
it's
about
it's a lot of that.
There's a
yeah,
lot
it's
of that.
like
Yeah,
like food on the floor, food all over our linens. And I'm thinking, is this how you eat at home? Is your table looking like this at home? Because if it is, you got some stuff. We need to talk to you about some things. There's some etiquette classes you might need to take, dog.
Oh,
Okay.
But see, that's the whole that's the whole thing. Okay. You said the one word, that's the whole thing. Okay.
Etiquette.
Most people don't have it, especially when they're going out to an event.
right.
Okay. They don't have the proper dress code. They don't understand what it is, or they understand what it is and they don't care. Okay. Because if you say that you're having a formal event and you come in jeans and a nice shirt, that is not formal. It is a wedding. This is a wedding. This is not a street fest. This is not Coney Island. This is not a gig in a park or anything like that. Etiquette is the whole entire thing in a nutshell. And unfortunately, most people do not understand it or they just don't care.
Right. I mean, you got like one of the biggest issues that the venues run into, venues that have the ABC license, the liquor license. The
Mm-hmm.
problem they run into is you got so many people that just disregard. It doesn't matter how many times you tell them they're going to bring their own booze. They got it hidden in their purse. They got, and it's sad that
Or in
you're
the car
going
in
to
the parking lot.
right, and you're going to jeopardize someone's business because you want to be selfish. Oh, better yet, let's talk about the kids that don't know how to act. They're throwing
We ain't
food and
going
cake
there.
all over the floor,
No,
or
we're
better
going
yet,
there. We're
they're
going
running,
there.
they're running all around. Now, one of the things that gets me is you see a child doing something they're not supposed to, and you don't do nothing about it. They're running around sharp areas or areas that can easily break something. Like God forbid if they knock over someone's little special table decorations, but this happens all the time.
I done had
Excuse me.
I done had a child stand on top of the cake table and take a bite out of it.
Oh wow.
I done had a child take a flower ball off the table and was rolling it like it was a ball. And these are adults around, not saying anything. Not This is where I go back to not caring
Mm-hmm.
enough about number one, the person's event that you are at. Because if it was your event, you wouldn't even allow this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But because you don't care about the person's event that you're at, you allow the children to do what they're doing. Well, see, the thing is about Miss Leia is that I will stop the event in a heartbeat. Let my voice be known that if something like this happens again, the event will be canceled
Shut down.
because I don't
Done.
tolerate that type of
Finito.
disrespect. Okay.
How about
You
overly
have
and
to have
overly?
respect for someone's event that you're at, and you know that you 100% of doubt have to be responsible for your children. If you are not responsible for your children, then I just may ask you to leave because after a while it gets overrated because
I can't do my
children are
job
doing
watching
too
your
much.
children.
I
I
don't
can't
I
do my
don't
job watching your
approve of
children.
children being at events unless they're specifically a part of that family that's having the event, like the bride and groom. You know how sometimes they just have their kids in the event. That's
Mhm.
about it. Other than that, I don't believe that children should be at an event, especially if it's for an adult,
And
unless
have
it's
alcohol.
and they have alcohol. That is
Mhm.
one of my biggest pet peeve. If you're going to have alcohol, you should not have any children there at the event at all.
Right.
How about the overly empowered bridal party members who like to claim that the wording comes out of their mouth? We paid for this.
You pay for what?
I ain't see your name on nothing, but I'm just that's
Who
what
who paid for it? You talking
that's what
about
they'll say. They
the
paid
bridal
for this.
party?
Yeah,
The bridal party ain't paid for nothing but what they got on.
but they like to say they like to be emboldened or entitled. They get into this whole little thing. I need people to stop doing that. You did listen. My
You
contract
didn't pay
is not
for it.
with
It's
you
not.
and the
It's
bridal
you did.
party
Number one, you didn't pay for it. You paid for your gown or you paid for your suit.
or
You
your
did
shoe.
not pay for the event, the venue itself. You did not pay for the catering. You did not do any of those things. And the event is not for you. It is for the person that you're representing. Now, I had a good friend of mine, and her son and my son are really best friends, and we did her event. And one of the girls decided that they were getting their hair done, and I guess you just really just you just get those people that just think it's about them too, besides the bride or whatever have you. So she was still getting her hair done. Everybody else was there ready to walk. She decides to call and say, Miss Lay, I'm running a little bit late. I'm still getting my hair done. Well, guess what? I'll see you at the reception.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, I'm just like about 10 minutes away, but you ain't the bride though. If the bride called me and told me that she was 10 minutes away, then we're going to have to wait because we can't have a wedding without the bride. But we sure can have a wedding without you.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, right now you're making this about you, and you purposely did that. So guess what? You won't walk today,
There you go.
but you'll be escorted in at the reception. But we're not going to hold this up because you're running late.
Well, we'll see you later.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So yeah, you're going to have to take everything into consideration. Everything.
And I think that's one of the things is that people understand is like, okay, if I need for people to do one thing and one thing on and be honest and realistic with themselves. Okay, when you go into that venue that morning, that day of your event, you go through and you check that venue, everything is intact. When it comes time for you to leave at the end of that night and something is broken or something is messed up, be man, woman enough to accept the responsibility and take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have one, it's like, if you can't go into someone's venue, the toilet was working perfect, and then out of clear blue, now the toilet is shooting out water. Okay, you need to take responsibility for your actions.
And that's another thing that needs to go on a clause too, as well. If anything, any damages, because that's we had an incident here. We had an incident where someone was supposed to do something and they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They did something else because nobody else was around and they just did it. And then that caused them to have to come out of their pocket and pay something that they wasn't too happy about paying because you did something that messed up something that you had to compensate for.
Yeah.
And fix. So yeah, it's a difficult situation. I just say that whatever all of this is a learning experience for all of us. Every time we have an event or every time we have a client, whatever the issue is, it's always something new for us to learn too on the vendor side of it. That's one of the main reasons why we continually to keep upgrading the contracts, because something else done popped off that I was like, oh boy, this just came right out of the Cracker Jack box. Now I got to go back in here and put another clause in because this done came out the Cracker Jack box, and I gotta update this now because I would have never expected this to happen.
Yep.
So now I gotta put something in there to cover myself in case somebody does this. And then now you gotta have everybody sign off on this because this particular thing happened, so you won't have to deal with it again. But we're gonna always end up doing that. Right. We're gonna always having to keep changing stuff because something is always gonna be off somewhere. But it's better for us to keep changing and adding than to not have everything
covered. Yeah.
Covered.
Right. Well, see, one of the things that people need to understand too is that, okay, if you see in the contract, don't look at it as I'm gonna test it anyways. You got a lot of people, and this is what's been going on over the years. There have been two types of organizations that they're pretending to be something that they're not, just to get their foot in the door. And once they get their foot in the door, they violate every single policy in the contract. And that's why and that's
another. And that's see now I'm gonna have to go in there and do something else now because you done said something else. You done said something.
No, this was a real bad.
You done said something else. So let me jot that down. Now you don't think about it. Now you done checked off everything that you were supposed to do. And now you come in here and you end up doing something totally that's not even on that you was allowed to do in the first place, and you added something else in here.
And see, that's what happened is back in the days, there was one organization. I'm not going to say their name, but it was one organization. Every time you did an event with them, they would tear up the venue. So a lot of venues put out the word, hey, don't do business with this organization because they're going to tear your venue up. Okay, so that was one organization. Then there's this thing going on where they're doing adult events where they don't tell you it's an adult event, When I say adult event, it's like they're doing strip stuff, like
Because I was really confused. Sorry.
adult event, inappropriate adult events. And what they'll do is they'll pretend that they're going to do an event, and then they show up, and then before you know it, you got the most crazy thing going on. And then guess what? Now they done took pictures, video inside your venue to damage your reputation. Oh yeah, well don't go to the Boom Boom Club because they were dancing on poles. You know,
No,
it's
that's you know what? If some if that's why we have a
it was
security
bad
guard and
when
things
they
like that on site all the time. Because if something gets out of line and it's not according to what we have set up for, you're not having it.
right. And see, this is what
Shut
and this
down.
this is when what happened was back. I want to say it was 2018. I want to say between 2017 2018 when they shut down a lot of the strip clubs on Bragg Boulevard. They're up
Hmm.
and down Bragg Boulevard. They had these individuals trying to pop up and do the adult parties at the venue. So they come in saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to do a birthday party," and then that birthday party turns out to be an adult party, and it was inappropriate. And so then the venue sees it and they shut them down, and then they want to throw a hissy fit. But guess what? You violated their
You
contract,
did violate it because first
Hmm.
of all, you lied about what type of event you was going to have. You changed the whole atmosphere when you got there,
right?
and you had some other type of thing in plan in lieu of what you were actually renting the space for. So
Right.
no,
And
There's
absolutely.
then,
always
and then
some line on there saying what type of event is it, and you write in what it is, and then your signature goes on the bottom line. Well, guess what? You're responsible for it being that exact event. And if it's not, we can literally say, okay, well, we're shutting the doors. You people have to go.
right, and this
And
is
that
what
is legal. That is legal.
in
That
some
venue
venues,
or that management is legal. That's legal. Is I don't know what to do that because you're violating you're in breach of contract. Period.
and
And
a
once
lot of
you're
people
in
don't
breach of
know that.
contract, they ain't gotta move with you no more.
And
Right,
then another thing they have, and then another thing people have to respect too is the time.
Hmm.
The time when you say an event is over, the time to start, and the time you say that it's over.
Hmm.
You have to respect that too because it just sometimes it's like, oh, we was told we could do this. No, we wasn't. This is the time span.
and don't take it upon yourself just because of a bad situation happened that it automatically means you can extend your time. Don't make that assumption. I've had that
You
happen
know,
numerous
I
times.
would only expand someone's time if it was an emergency. You know what I'm saying, or
Right,
something
absolutely.
was out of your control. That
But
you
but my
you
thing
know
is
say
though
something
they should
happened where we have to push it back a little bit. I
right.
can understand that.
But they need to come talk to you. That's something they need to communicate that part to you. You just don't
They
make an
do.
assumption that you automatically going to get extra time because things didn't work out like they were supposed to. That is something that people need to understand. Is just like what we as planners, when you do an outdoor event, all of us know, anytime you do an outdoor event, you will always have a weather plan, and that's to keep
A
everything on
plan
track.
B.
If you
Hmm.
don't have a weather plan and you're trying to figure it out as it's happening, that means you're going to hurt yourself in time. And then when you hurt yourself in time, it affects every single vendor that is working for you. So that's one of those things to where I tell people all the time, like, okay, understand your boundaries of your contract. You can't just, and it's like one of the biggest ones that a lot of people don't know that gets violated all the time for most venues is a lot of venues in Fayetteville have a clause in their contract saying you cannot play profanity in your music. The DJ can't do this. They do not pay attention to that one little clause in there. And they do it. The
Yeah,
DJ
because
says,
they pick songs and stuff, and sometimes it has not the appropriate
right.
version of it.
And that's
And
where, and then the DJ, for some odd reason, did not get that message. Like, and this is one of the things I need for people to understand is when you read a contract for your venue, and it applies to certain people. Let's say, for example, the caterer is required to clean up their mess. To me personally, I don't understand how you have to tell someone they have to clean up their own mess, but this is becoming a big.
trust me, you do.
You do. It's like you are required. The caterer is required to take out their own trash. The caterer is required to clean up their own mess. The caterer is required to police up their tables. I mean,
The
you
caterer is required to leave the kitchen
The
The
same
the
way
way.
it
same
was
way you
walking the dough.
found it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I mean that's just a mandatory, that's just mandatory. I mean, we do it everywhere we go. We expect the same thing from a person that comes in as well. Bring your own linen,
Right.
bring your own setup, bring your own tools and things that you need to use, and leave the premises the same way you saw it before you set up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where things are getting out. Where if you're dealing with someone who is not a professional, who doesn't do this job 24/7, they don't understand those rules or boundaries that are required that most professionals do automatically. But again, this is one of the things to where when you're not dealing with, let's say you're not dealing with vendors or professional vendors, and there is no contract in place, but they're doing the work for you, then they need to understand their responsibilities. You can't come in and Uncle Billy Boo and Aunt Juju come in and they decide to do something, and then they just up and leave, and now that responsibility of what's supposed to happen, who has to pick up the slack, and it leaves a void on, okay, what vendor is going to step up and do this extra work to make sure the team walks away successful. And I think that's the wrong answer, is that the customer needs to be held accountable because the customer is the one that paid for the venue. But what happens is a lot of vendors are picking up the stuff that's in the gray area of contracts or contracts that don't even exist, and it's the wrong thing to do. So that's why I stress to a lot of people, they have it in their contract. We're not going to do this. This is not our job.
Mm-hmm.
So
And a
what?
lot of people have they have a cleaning deposit too
Right.
that you won't get back.
Let me ask you this question real quick. And I've been thinking about this for a while, quite a while. Wouldn't it be a little bit, or would it actually help some if we had the venue send a copy, not with necessarily with their pricing and stuff on it, but a copy of their standard operating procedures to all vendors, to all the vendors that are coming. Like,
That,
don't most
Yeah,
venues don't look
I
that way.
would agree because that way at least you have an idea also as the vendor
Yes,
as to what's allowed and what's not allowed
I
at
think
the
that would be
venue.
super helpful because,
It
um,
would.
because like for instance, Lay and I have worked together in different events, but I don't know all of your policies. And now with the new venue, I don't know what your SOPs are. Now, if I'm going to do an event there, I'm going to ask you for a
right. A
copy because
professional will ask. Right.
I normally ask for a copy, and I'm thinking when you have the list, because the recent list I had was professional venue, um, auntie was catering, another auntie was the planner, day of coordinator, professional decor and decorations, and then semi-professional DJ. I'm gonna say that gently because I'm not really sure who he was, and he did not do a site visit beforehand. I'm not used to DJs not doing that, and then a photography team that I've never heard of before, but I think they might have been professionals. Now you got all these different people, some that are professional, some that are not. Everybody should have had a copy of that venue's standard operating procedures, the time frames for that event, from when they could get in the building, when they had to be out the
Yeah,
building.
when you can get in and when you can get
Something.
out, how much time you have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
I think that's appropriate.
I think venues should really put that out there because they should actually ask the client, I need a copy of all your vendors with their email addresses and a contact person. Like
Hmm.
I have a spreadsheet that I send to all my clients. Say I need all the vendors. Like I know on the name of their business, the person, the contact person, a phone number, email address. I need all that stuff so
Hmm.
I can send
That's
out.
a part of. See, that I have the same thing, but it's a part of my homework that I get to my client. So
Mm-hmm, me too.
they have to give me all of the names of who's coming, and so I can contact them and let them know exactly what they need and what they have to bring. If something extra, what I need to know so that I can set up appropriate space and
Yeah,
stuff for them. It goes vice versa.
yeah, but I think that we've lost some of that. We've lost a lot of this. The
Yeah,
working together.
we've lost the
You
connection
know,
part of it.
yeah,
I could agree on that because at the end of the day, we all still working together
Right.
separately, but still working together because we're working
mhm,
together for the event.
that's
So
correct.
yeah, so we should still be all we should be. It should be more communication. It should be much more communication going on between whoever the client is versus the vendor versus the venue. It should be all. It should be a whole triangle effect of communication. It really should, because a lot of stuff goes unsaid, and then when you find out at the last minute, you be like, "Well, dang, I didn't know that I had to bring 2 setups." You know what I'm saying, or whatever. Because especially for a DJ, especially on my part, if I tell my DJ that I'm having the wedding and the ceremony, but the wedding and the ceremony is not in the same space.
Right.
The wedding might be in one part of the venue, and the ceremony is here. I'm going to tell them right off the hand, you're going to have to bring 2 setups because I'm going to need you to set up a small setup just for the wedding part.
Right.
Okay. And with the big setup, your main setup is going to go over there where the ceremony is going, where the reception is going to be. So that's something that's vital.
Right.
You have to know that. So I agree. Everybody has to know where everything is going, where you're going to set up at, how long you got to be here, how long it's going to take you to do this, how long it's going to take. Do we have the day before to come in and do some prep? You know, so can some of the people come in the day before and just kind of like maybe prep up the stuff, or do half of it, or even drop the stuff off so it'll give us that extra hour. Right. But that communication is vital.
But see, that's one of the things that, like, I think there's only one venue. There's only one venue that actually sent me a full breakdown of their operation, and it was required for me to read it and sign it, and that was Carolina Barnes.
So that you understand it as the vendor, as the vendor coming into their facility. Right. That's a great idea.
Because there's no misunderstanding on the timing. There's no misunderstanding on when you can get in, when you can leave. It's like the way they did it, they simplified my job. Because what I do is I do a site visit. When I do my site visit, I find out the guidelines of that venue. I find out the details. And it's like normally I always have to initiate that contact, which is fine, because as a professional, that's what I'm supposed to do. So one of us got to step up and communicate to open it up. So to me,
it's very important.
So, but for me, the only place in 10 years I've been in business, only one venue has done that. And the thing is, it's a requirement. In order for you as a vendor to work at Carolina Barnes, you have to read their policy, sign it, and submit it back to them with a copy of your insurance. And that is the only venue that I've ever done that. Now, most of these other venues is I have a good working relationship with them, so I already know what their policies and procedures are. But it came from me stepping out, asking them what their procedures are. A lot of these, that's one of the things that Carolina Barnes, they put themselves in a position to where it's almost impossible for them to be held legally for anything that goes wrong. And I think
they covered it. They covered every track of it. They covered
every single track of it. They
covered which is very good.
And I think that's one of the things that if I own my own venue, I would do the exact same thing they would do, is to cover the bases. Because what happens is, if you got a customer, let's say you get a client, the client knows the rules but wants to violate the rules on purpose. What then you as the vendor look unprofessional because you wasn't aware you weren't supposed to do these things. You know, it's like when you go out and you violate as a DJ. If I go into a place and let's say I'm playing something that's inappropriate, which has never happened, but I'm playing something that's inappropriate, it's bad business when the owner has to come up to you of the venue and tell you, hey, you can't do this. If that lets you know there's two things that failed to happen. The venue failed to communicate with that vendor prior, and that vendor failed to do what was necessary to find out what the guidelines are for that venue.
And that's so true and very important. It goes back to that triangle effect. You have to have the 3 points communication. You really do. Vendor, client, venue. It's mandatory. Mandatory.
People have to be realistic. That's why I say people have to be realistic. If someone gives you guidelines of what is expected and what's not, you have to be realistic with those guidelines. You can't say, oh, you know what? They said we all could bring up 100, but we're going to test it anyways and bring 150. Why would you set yourself up for failure? And that's what's going on. Is a lot of clients, either one or two things: either they're not reading the contracts,
which they're not.
The contracts.
Most of the time they're not. They're just signing off on it because they just feel like they got their venue and and they got who is coming. But and then you get a phone call later. Can we do this? Are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to do that? And I'm like,
Did you read your contract? I'm just saying.
It's definitely in there. But you did. I'm assuming you didn't see it, right?
No, they didn't read it.
It's in there. Okay, let me go back and look.
Which tells us off gate you did not bother to read it.
Right.
We're like literally. Sometimes I feel like I want to say something crazy, but I'm gonna say this. It's like they think of us as their parents. Like we just got here.
Mm-hmm.
Stop it. We done had about 200 something children just like you came through our doors. Stop it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We got this. We can see it. We can tell a lot of things. Because we've experienced a lot of stuff. I'm not saying we experienced everything, but we have experienced quite a bit of things where we can see some things coming.
But that's one of the things that, and the thing is, and this is the part that don't get mad if you hire somebody and there's no contract. I don't know why. Me personally, I don't know why.
If you hire somebody and what now?
There's no contract. I'm going to ask the same question. Like, what you mean there's no contract?
No, there's a lot. That has been a big thing this year.
You mean the aunt and uncle things and cousins?
No. Not even the aunt and uncle thing. I mean, that's a norm. But I'm talking about they're hire a vendor, and they have no idea what the vendor's going to provide them. Because it was like what Dr. Cece was saying earlier, it was a verbal agreement.
Me and Tish. we she ain't got her glasses on today, so I'm gonna do it for her.
Oh Lord.
No, I mean I've actually
I understand. I'm gonna say I do understand what you're saying because very rare. This is rare now, but it does happen. I do understand that some people do hire people, and I don't think they do know what the person is gonna do.
Well, I'm gonna say this: in 2023, it is a norm now. They will hire I'm gonna tell you this: the one that really messed me up is you hire a coordinator, planner / decorator. Technically, she was more so a decorator than she was a planner, and you have no idea what she's gonna do for you because you have no paperwork. That's happened at least 3 times this year. 3 times this year.
That's frightening.
Yeah, Leia.
That is so frightening because I would
then
be
how do they know
devastated.
What
because I would be devastated as the person who did that because I really wouldn't know. I mean, I can understand. I can't understand you doing that without having any type of paperwork or something to say something. But that's just so devastating.
I asked a question. I remember asking one question at one of the events. Are they going to provide a backdrop for the selfie station area? That's a good question. Let me go ask. Okay. You don't know what they're providing?
And here's the funny part is that I guess because I'm gonna go back to my teaching stage now.
Get it now, Professor. Get it, Professor. Hey, go ahead.
Because here's the thing with me when I was teaching the event planning courses, and I would tell my students, I would tell them, I was like, you know what? I don't care if you want to be an event planner, but my biggest thing for you to do is that you as the person, because if anything goes wrong, the only person that they're going to be looking at is the person who's planning the event. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I don't care if the caterer did something messed up, if the DJ did something messed up, if the venue did something messed up, they're going to look for who is the planner.
Right.
So it is so important when I say for you to learn every single minute thing that would be considered that you need to have an event for. It's very important that you know everything
Mhm.
about every single thing.
Mhm.
Because if you don't, you wouldn't know how to answer those questions correctly. You wouldn't know how to set somebody straight correctly. You wouldn't know how to set up a person where you want the caterer to be, or the DJ to be, or this particular area. This needs to be here, or anything correctly. You wouldn't have those issues if you knew a little bit of everything on how it runs. It goes back to what you were saying, Mario, by the venue, the communication between the venue and the client and the vendor, as to everybody knowing where they need to go and how they need to be at that particular time and space.
Mhm.
So just like you just said something about having a backdrop behind a selfie station, me being the planner, the first thing I'm going to ask for is if are you having any other things like activities
Right.
besides having your wedding itself, the
Mhm.
reception. You already have a DJ, so we already know that the DJ needs a certain amount of space, so we can set him up, because see, he's the hype person. So I need for him to be somewhere where he could be seen from every angle.
Thank you.
Okay, and that they can see from every angle when you're coming in, not on the side where they got to turn their head and unfocus on what they're supposed to be doing. I need you to be straight ahead, so that you can see them coming in. But then I'm going to ask them, if you're going to have photography or anything like that, do you need a second backdrop? Do you want something else put up on the wall where it's just going to be a photo prop? And if they tell me that they're having somebody with a photo camera or a 360 or something like that, most people who have 360 don't even have backdrop setups.
Mm-mm.
They just come with the 360 and they just need them a space. Well, I
Uh-huh.
don't just need a space. I need, because see, I'm still thinking about your pictures and my pictures,
Mhm.
because all them pictures is going on my page. So if I'm thinking about how your stuff is going to be set up, I'm gonna have to say, well, you're gonna need a backdrop. You ain't got, is the 360 coming with a backdrop? See, that's my next question to you.
Right.
Because what people
The
don't
person
understand is
coming,
all of those
they don't
pictures.
understand that.
Right.
Every vendor's taking pictures. Every vendor's posting pictures. We have to be concerned with all of that.
Everything,
Right.
the whole kick, even how the room is set up for the catering.
Yes. We
It,
gotta
see,
it's
look at
everything is a picture for me. The whole setup, the whole theme, everything.
it's a production.
Everything has to be a
yes,
picture for me.
yes, sir. Yes,
It's a
sir.
production.
I gotta make sure that everything is straight. So
Mhm.
Right.
if you come in with a photo prop or whatever, does that person come with a backdrop? Do they have one? No, Miss Lay, I don't even think they have one. Well, let's just do a standard white. Let's just do something there, so you won't have to have this your photo thing and you on a blank wall. Unless the
Mhm.
wall is beautiful.
Yeah.
Unless you got like a nice kind of printed or odd looking space that looks like a canvas,
Mhm.
that's
Right.
something different. But being a planner, you have to go through it. You got to go through everything, the whole list, the whole
And see,
list.
I'm gonna be honest with you. And one of the things, and this is something that I don't know, maybe it's just me because I'm a mix of everything, but it's just like for me, the biggest disconnect that I always have with people that designate themselves as planners is okay, if you are a planner but you're doing most of the decorating for your event, right? At what point do you focus on how everybody's going to enter the room, how they're going to get to the dance floor, how the caterer, how they're going to get to pick up the food if it's buffet? I've seen so many events to where they maximize the venue and don't think about the avenues of approach for everything that's going to happen throughout that day.
Mhm.
Well,
And
then
so, what,
they should not have ever told anyone that they were going to be the planner,
right? Because
because they did not plan
Say that again. Thank
correctly.
you.
They should
because
Stop
not
that's
it.
have
one of the
ever
things I
they
look
should
at.
not have ever said anything like that, because see, and that's what I do. Okay, and now if I'm gonna plan, you're not gonna, you very rarely gonna see me be doing the decorating part. That's what my staff is for.
Mhm.
That's
Right,
why I hire them to go ahead and do it, because my mindset is focusing on the whole entire event itself.
right,
I can come in and say, okay, I have a certain amount of time that I allow myself to go and set up maybe the arrangements and things like that by nature. But at a certain time, you won't see me no more.
Right.
Then I'm going to leave my staff to finish it. And then me and you, Tish, we're going to go find a bride.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go see if everybody is coming in on time. I'm making phone calls now because it's a whole 25 minutes to the point where the caterer should have been here by now.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have other things on my agenda. The staff is very well capable of taking care of everything else that needs to be done. But as far as the major part of it, if you can move yourself out of the position of just decorating to go and see about how the event itself is supposed to go as a whole, then no, you are not planning anything.
That's right.
And that's where, and I think that's where people need to take time out to understand is that, like, if you got to dance across tables to get to the dance floor, you did something wrong. And I think I've seen it happen a couple of times this year and a couple of times last year, where people will pack the room, but there's nowhere for you to walk. So once you sit down at the table, you better not get up. I mean,
well, they didn't lay that room out correctly. They were not. That's someone that should not have even. They should not even have been the decorator at that point, because
But
you don't.
most
You
of
have
the time,
no
the
idea.
venues setting up the tables though.
You have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, and then
You
got
missed the
venues
whole
that set the
concept
tables
of
too,
the
though.
entrance. You didn't take anything into consideration
Yeah.
at
But
all.
you gotta remember now, sometimes it's the venue that sets the tables and chairs up most of the time for us anyway. And then they may not get it right either.
They may not get it right, but they fitting to move it.
right.
Yeah, we've got to adjust stuff.
They got to move. It would have to be adjusted.
Because my thing is, and this is why I tell people, if you got a bride and groom, got to do their entrance, and that bride comes in and she gets stuck on 3 or 4 tables just coming in, that lets you know the room wasn't properly. Number one, either you had too many people. Once again, you overbooked the room with too many people, and then the actual setup then was not appropriate for the event. And this is the thing I get to. I mean, as a DJ, I come in, and as soon as I see the setup for the room, I automatically know if we're gonna have problems or not.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it before it happens. And I think that's one of the problems I run into is that, okay, a lot of people don't hire planners or coordinators. Okay.
Because they think it's too much money. They think it's too much money, but and they think it's unnecessary because they think that they can plan an event. And I'm gonna say not everybody can, but there's a few that can. And they think that it's just not basically it's not necessary, is what they say.
Right.
But for me to tell you, to be honest with you, it's 100% necessary. Because we are the professionals of what we do. So if you're hiring a professional to plan your event, that takes all the wear and tear out of your brain cells. Okay.
Keyword though, the keyword in that situation though,
you're stress free.
They have to be a professional.
They have to be a professional.
It has to be
stress free. It takes all of that stress free out of the way. You know, some people say I'm going to hire my family member is going to do it, but family can be too personal. Okay, and then you got people that don't want to respect the personal because they're family members, and you know they want to act a fool or act silly or whatever. That's why always a stranger that don't know you.
That works better.
It works better because I'm not playing. Period. Okay. Right. I mean, if you act a fool while we rehearsing, you're gonna act a fool the day of. That's why it's no phones, no chewing gum. I'm introducing myself. I'm setting the tone for order. Okay. At this particular time, we're going to practice coming in, coming out, or whatever it is that we're doing. But we're going to do it respectfully. We're going to do it in a signified manner, and we're going to get it done at an appropriate time, and we're going to be done with it. And then we're going to
1 hour.
And 1 hour. Same thing. 1 hour.
How must we go over the 1 hour?
1 hour.
Most of the time, I'm going to tell you the reason why.
It's not rocket science. It's if you understand and you walk correctly and you listen. I'm only going to do it twice anyway. We're going to do it one time without the music, and then we're going to do it the second time. It's the second time with the music. You know me, Mario. You've been at rehearsal with me plenty of time. I listen. Let's get this done because tomorrow is it. I cannot tell the bride, "Oh, wait a minute, stop. We got to go back."
You're you make me all over here.
I mean, I think that's one of the things people got.
Okay, because
That's
this is live. There's
There are no do-overs.
right.
We're
you
not
can't
filming.
you can't stop
Live.
that.
And it's more for professional because a professional knows how to get in and get out. I mean,
You get in and you get out. You do
knows all the issues and all the things that can possibly happen. And
you
I
do
think
what it do.
I think that's the part that upsets me the most is that
You
when
do what it do.
I see someone and just like I saw something, and this is the part that messed me up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When you're doing a ceremony, and this is the part that messes me up because this person was supposed to be a professional. When you're doing a ceremony, the groom is supposed to be on what side?
Coming in?
As you're looking, if I'm sitting in the chair,
he's on the right side.
Yeah, well,
he's supposed to be on the right side.
Facing the
Yeah,
altar,
he's on the right. He's on the right. He's on the right side. He's on the right side if you're looking in, and he's on the left side of the pastor standing.
Yeah,
right. So, at what point will that rule change?
Never.
Okay. For the first time,
ingrained.
I think after 250 plus weddings, for the first time, I saw the groom standing on the wrong side at a wedding.
On the left side?
On the left side. And I thought that was just, okay, it got to be something going on that I don't know about for the groom to be standing on the wrong side.
Like what?
Was it religious?
No, it wasn't.
I think I'm lost right now. I'm lost.
Because that's the only reason why.
But
something would go something would go on the opposite way unless somebody specifically just wanted to do something different.
Flubbed maybe.
I would say this is that if you are a professional, everyone knows the standard procedure for a wedding is the groom is always on the right side. Always.
Yeah.
I've never seen an exception to the policy or anything, but for the first time in 2023, I saw the groom stand on the wrong side. And I just could not understand. And this was a professional planner.
And the whole wedding party went to the right to the wrong side, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
right.
Basically.
Absolutely. So at what point, and again, I saw it and I didn't make it to the rehearsal. This is one of those weddings I didn't make it to the rehearsal because if I was at the rehearsal, I would have questioned.
Then you would have said something. But right. It was too late by the time you got there because you didn't expect what you saw.
Right. Yeah, so it just went through. They did it, and it was, it was a done deal. But this is one of those things to where that it's just like you show who you really are when stuff like that happens. As a coordinator, as a planner, as a professional, and that's to me is the most common trait. Everybody knows that. If you worked in this business long enough, everybody knows the groom stands to your right as you're looking at them. But this one wedding, the groom was on the left, and the groomsmen were on the left with him. Never seen anything like it before.
Me neither.
So that's why I say it comes down to the point where people really need to do some serious researching. I mean, because God knows if I ask Google, like right now, Google computer, what side does the groom stand on during the wedding?
From benesame.co.uk. Traditionally at the wedding ceremony, the groom stands to the right of the bride. If you'd like another answer, just say next.
You see how easy that was? I mean,
just goes to show you that, and it's a sad situation because, I mean, like there's so many people that want to be in this business, that try to be in this business. But
because I think it's a money-making machine. It's a cash. It's an ATM machine. Boy. Money.
But you're not doing things correctly. You understand? Mm-hmm. And to make such a mistake of that magnitude, because that's a big mistake. That was a very, very big mistake to put a whole wedding party on the wrong side of that just blows my mind right there, because I have never ever seen anything like that ever. For somebody to make a big mistake like that. I mean, I'm sure that all the guests there was even probably saying the same thing. I've never seen a groom's party on the left side and never seen a bridal party on the right side.
I bet somebody Googled it while they was there too. Just saying.
They probably did, just like he just did Siri. But I'm just saying, it just
Yeah, I mean, it was just see. I mean, it
absurd
took me
to
what?
me. But
It took me
that's
like
what I'm
30
saying.
seconds.
Don't. It's so hard to say when people be saying like, I've done this so many times, and for me, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Right.
Period.
Absolutely.
Okay, your professionalism will show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It will show.
And the thing is, and if you have professional vendors, it's going
It's
to
gonna
force
show.
it to come. It's going to force it to come to light because
It's gonna show.
I noticed. I'm like, I'll take another one where I caught this one individual not doing their job as a planner because of what I was doing on my way of doing things. Is I always do a virtual walkthrough with my clients
Mhm.
on the Tuesday before the event. When I do that virtual walkthrough, everything that I need to catch and bring to light happens on that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Before I get to that bride and groom on that Tuesday, the coordinator should already have all the right answers.
Mhm.
Most of the time on that Tuesday is when I find out if that coordinator is legit or is still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my safety net is to catch all problems. Now sometimes bride and groom they don't share certain things with me, and it doesn't have a major impact. But it's like okay, if you're doing certain things and I'm not aware of it as the DJ, then guess what? You might be screwed. You might be screwed. Depends on how bad. I mean, how much requirement is needed to make it to pull it off.
Well, that's why I always say it goes back to that communication with the diamond, the triangle effect. You gotta have the communication, even
Right.
if it's last minute stuff that needs to be adjusted. Gotta have that communication, and don't just call one person. You got to call all three people. You got to call the venue, let the venue know that there's been a change, let
Right.
the planner know first that it's been a change, and then let the vendors know so we know what to do and what not to do,
And how
or
to
what we
adjust
could,
to the
or how we
situation.
can adjust what we need to adjust.
Thank you.
And it shouldn't happen the day of, and that
It
should not happen the day
it
of.
should
Please
not happen
don't.
the day
Please
It
of,
should
stop
not
that.
happen the day of.
stuff be happening the day.
If
We
you're a
got a whole
professional,
nother list of stuff that's going on today. We
right?
do not need you coming in throwing monkey wrenches everywhere.
If
Stop
you're a professional, you should something like that. Certain major, like there's going to be minor changes, but major changes should be captured at least a week prior. At least, at the bare minimum, a week prior. You should not be finding out anything that's going to cause a major impact the day of the event.
it. True.
That's piss poor planning on somebody's part.
Yeah.
If you're finding out something major on the day of, that means someone properly did not plan it, nor did they go through and do what's necessary. Like me, I'm looking over myself. I got an event on Friday. I'm already looking over stuff and already catching stuff left and right. And I know, and the reason why I know this is because every time I do a military event, I automatically know they're not going to get into the details of stuff because they're counting on their narration paperwork that they normally do for their events to capture everything. And they think that if everyone has a copy of that, but guess what? If I don't get a copy of it until the day of, and you want me to play the Star Spangled Banner, and I don't have it, which I know, of course, I know better than that. But I'm just saying that you just have to give people time to let them know in advance. Don't give them something. I had one bride saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to give you the rundown of everything we want the day prior." No, you're not. You're not going to give me something at the last minute. You're going to give it to me prior to that. And
Right.
that's what people need to understand is that their contracts, reading your contracts and being realistic with your event will keep you away from a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah,
you're
it
doing
will.
something,
And ask questions.
yes.
That's my main thing. Ask the questions. If you're not sure, call me back. Ask.
And if you're trying to be so unique and so different than every other wedding, which is almost impossible, but if you want to be so unique and so different, all you're doing is bringing more stress to yourself. Don't get me wrong, there's certain things you could do that's never been done before, but if you're not communicating and you're not telling people what you're doing, you're just bringing a lot of stress to your event.
Yeah, communication is key. I think we could end with that part. It's just
Yep.
Right.
That's
communication
it.
is key. making sure everybody knows everything what's going on. I think the venues should reach out to the vendors as well as the vendors reaching out to the venues should go vice versa. I
Right.
think they
Stop
should
not
go.
going to do daggone site visits, please.
Yeah,
Go do a
Right.
site visit.
You have to
Stop
do
doing
something.
I mean it makes sense, especially if you
Right.
ain't never been there.
Thank you.
Especially if you've never been there. And especially if it's out of town or something like that, I take the appropriate weekend or whatever and just say, we got something in Lillington. We're going to go to Lillington. We're going to go to Lumberton or somewhere, or I mean Raleigh, Durham, whatever. Just take a moment to go out there and take a look.
And see,
So
what
you can
people
put
understand,
your eyes on it. So your eyes see different than what you see the pictures on Facebook and on the website. Go physically see the place.
because guess what? If you got a truck and trailer and that area does not support truck and trailer, you're screwed.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
That's another thing. That's another thing. You might not have the appropriate access
Right.
that you're going to needing with what you're normally traveling with.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be able to have no room for a trailer to go through. It might not even have a back door. It might have stairs like that other venue you was telling us about that's here. That's really beautiful, but you realize that they had stairs and everything had to go up the stairs to get to the main part of the venue.
And they had because the thing is, the
Beautiful
new
place,
venue,
but the whole access of it was upstairs, and you didn't. And if that's a very important key. If you don't communicate that with other people, they may like, well, I can't bring all of this stuff upstairs. I should have did something different to make something lighter for me to be able to bring this instead of using my main stuff. So yeah, that's
and that's why again, just like that right there, that's why it's critical because contracts are big communicational pieces. Because in my contract, it's crystal clear: it will not go up any stairs. I will not be placing any balconies or any stairs if there's no elevator or access for me.
Yeah, that's a very good.
I had to put that in
very
there.
good point.
I had to put that in there because I got one venue now decided that all DJs will go in the balcony, and that so I can't do business with that venue anymore because they don't have an elevator. I mean, how do you?
Yeah, because I mean, you're risking yourself going up the stairs, your equipment, you're risking falling, and anything of that matter. It's just not. That's not a good idea.
And so that's why I say it's like contracts is the number one portion of your communication. Asking questions is crucial. Never, and this is my golden rule in this business: never make any assumptions. The moment you make an assumption, the moment you go, something gonna go wrong.
Yeah, that's why you always ask, make site visits,
and communicate,
and read your contract.
All right, so ladies, do y'all have anything else? I know we've been on here a little bit longer than normal. We're almost hitting over. We're at 1 hour 48 minutes.
Sorry.
I guess we have to make up for all the time we haven't done in a while.
I guess.
I just say ask questions, do your contracts, read your contracts,
be realistic, and understand your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And communicate with the venue. Go make site visits. Make sure you're familiar with their SOPs. I'm sorry, we're military. Standard operating procedures. Make sure that you know their rules, that you see a copy of the contract. It doesn't have to be your client's contract, but it needs to be a copy of their contract so you understand what your perimeters are and what their rules are.
Do floor plans. I mean, if the venue doesn't offer you a floor plan, do one yourself. So you can visualize exactly how it's going to work in a room, and then take it to the venue and get their look. They are the subject matter expert of their venue, of their space.
Right. Exactly, and they need to make sure. Well, see, and here's another thing: they need to make sure that they can accommodate what you're bringing.
Right.
Thank you.
Because that's where you can't just think. Because if you think, and again, I've been doing this business for a long time. I still got to do floor plan. I can't just sit off the top of my head and just think everything. I actually got to do a floor plan because it makes sense to me when I do a floor plan, because then guess what? I'm going to catch all the resources that are coming to the party or coming to the event.
That's correct.
Because a lot of people think, I'm going to get a 360. And see, this is the number one issue we've been having lately for the last 2 years. The 360 requires a lot of space.
It does require a certain amount of space to run it, because that camera has, it's the feed of it when it goes.
Right. You need at least I think it's like 8 by 8 worth of spacing just for the 360 to be effective. You need about 8x8 spacing, and that's why people. And I've done it where they've done the 360, and they want to put them outside. Me personally, I don't know why the 360 wants them to do that, but electronics and heat don't go good together. I
And
want people
rain.
to understand that
They
electronics,
don't. Not unless it's a covering or someplace that's
shaded
specifically
area, something like
shaded
that.
area or somewhere flat where you actually can run a cord. You know what I'm saying, or something to that
Yeah.
matter. But yeah,
So I tell people, take your phone right now and go leave it in your car. Just leave it in your car and see how long it lasts before it blacks out.
it's gonna black out because of the heat. Gonna get
Because of
too
the heat.
hot.
So that's why I tell people outside when you're doing stuff outdoors, and the thing is, you're gonna put the 360 outdoors. It's like electronic equipment does not work good with sun, direct sun. I mean, and people need to understand that. So there's a lot. Like I said, ask questions, don't make assumptions, read your contract, understand your boundaries, and be realistic.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
about the bottom line of the gist of it today.
All right. So Tish, you have anything else you want to say?
My favorite phrase: read your contracts, understand your contracts, ask as many questions as possible about your contracts so that you have a successful event. That's it.
Leah, what do you have to say?
I'm in agreement.
And I second that motion.
Not just because we're sisters, though. I'm just saying.
Just ask questions. Ask
That's right.
the question, and communication is key.
Amen.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that was our show for today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll see y'all next week. I know we're still working out some of the issues. I know we'll kind of like lay out what we're going to talk about next week. We're going to try to get back on track with our special. So we'll see what happens. Y'all be safe. Have a great and summer coming up. It's summertime, June 1st. Look, we're at the halftime mark.
Now.
All the vendors and venues, guess what? Tomorrow's the halftime mark. And
we
at
here
this point
now.
in time, it's time to get ready because peak season for us is about to kick in high gear.
Yeah.
June, July, August. Everyone knows
August.
June, July, August is where things get crazy for us. So halftime show, and then we got to get to work.
All right. You guys have a great day.
All right, y'all take it easy.
All right. See y'all later.